Every shooting discipline has its greatest hits, the handful of drills that show up in almost every serious training class. Regardless of instructor or range, they're popular for a simple reason. Each one isolates a single skill and makes failure obvious. You can't fake your way through them. Let's go through the ones every serious shooter eventually runs into. The failure drill 2-1. This one goes by a few names depending on who's teaching it, but the structure is always the same. 2 rounds to the chest, then 1 to the head. It gets taught as a response to a real problem. Center mass hits don't always end a threat immediately, so a follow-up to a smaller, more decisive target is built into the sequence. The tricky part isn't marksmanship, it's the switch. Your hands and eyes spend 2 shots locked onto a big target, then have to snap onto something roughly the size of a fist in a fraction of a second, and do it without your muscle memory, just firing a 3rd round at the chest out of habit. Instructors often withhold the exact shot count beforehand, specifically so students can't pre-plan the transition. They have to actually react to the command. The multiple target standard. This is one of the oldest test-yourself drills still in circulation, built around a scenario most people don't train for: more than 1 threat at once. 3 targets, spaced roughly a yard apart. Shooter starts holstered and turned away. On the signal, turn, engage all 3 with 2 rounds each, reload on the clock, then run the same pattern again. 12 rounds, 1 reload, 0 time to overthink it. What it actually tests is whether you can build a scanning habit, left to right or right to left, instead of treating each target like its own separate problem. The blind turn at the start forces you to locate all 3 threats from a neutral position before you fire a single round, which turns out to be harder than it sounds. The pure transition drill, named for a competitive shooter famous for blisteringly fast target-to-target speed. This drill strips away almost everything except lateral movement. 3 targets, same height, 2 rounds each, 6 total. No vertical transition, no reload, nothing to distract from one specific problem. Can you move your hips, shoulders and hands together as a unit when swinging from target to target? It's the drill instructors reach for when they spot a wrist shooter, someone who tries to re-aim by twisting their hands instead of rotating their whole upper body. The fix becomes obvious fast because the drill punishes the habit immediately with wide, sloppy hits, which turns out to be harder than it sounds. The speed benchmark. Sometimes you don't need 3 targets or a reload to learn something. You just need 1 target and a stopwatch. 7 yards, weapon holstered, 6 rounds fired as fast as the shooter can manage the instant the buzzer goes off. And every round needs to land in the target's center scoring zone. Because there's no transition and no reload, this drill isolates exactly one thing. Can you keep the gun returning to the same point of aim shot after shot? A weak support hand grip shows up instantly as vertical stringing since the muzzle climbs more than it should between rounds. It's less a drill and more a diagnostic than it sounds. The numbered shapes drill. Built around a target with several simple shapes, say a circle, a square and a triangle, each numbered independently of where they physically sit on the page. Shooter starts holstered with a full magazine plus 2 reloads. On the signal, 1 round on shape 1, 2 on shape 2, 3 on shape 3, and so on, always following the number, never the shape's position. Because the magazine capacity doesn't divide evenly into the shot count, the shooter is forced into mid-sequence reloads at unpredictable points, which is exactly the point. It punishes shooters who lose count of their remaining ammunition, a problem that hits revolver shooters especially hard since they carry less capacity and get no visual slide-locked back cue when they run dry. The move and stop drill. 2 targets, a marked path on the ground, and a strict rule: you never fire while your feet are moving. The shooter advances with the gun lowered, reaches a marked spot, comes to a dead stop, then raises and fires. Only then does the next move begin. The lesson here isn't about marksmanship at all, it's about discipline. Shooting while moving wrecks accuracy and raises the odds of hitting something you didn't mean to. But standing frozen in one spot for too long carries its own risk. The drill trains the balance between those 2 mistakes. Dot torture. This one isn't about speed, it's built to expose flaws in fundamentals. A grid of small dots, each about coin-sized, at a distance close enough that missing has nothing to do with eyesight or a faraway target. Different dots call for different sequences: a single round, a pair, a shot with a mandatory reload first, a hand switch mid-string. Because the target is so forgiving in terms of size and distance, any consistent miss pattern, especially one that clusters to one side, almost always points to trigger control or grip, not aim. It's a favorite for beginners precisely because it removes every excuse except technique. The 5-second warm-up. 5 rounds, a 5-inch target, 5 yards, 5 seconds. The name does all the explaining for you, which is exactly why it's such a common opener for a training session. No lengthy briefing required. It's forgiving enough that a reasonably competent shooter can pass it without much stress, but tight enough that sloppy autopilot shooting will fail it. A lot of instructors like to run it twice, once as a warm-up and once again at the very end of a long session, just to see how much fatigue ate into fundamentals over the course of the day. Point shooting. A different philosophy entirely. No formal sight alignment at all. The shooter aims using body position and instinct, relying on a consistent arm and wrist index instead of visually confirming sights on target. It traces back to close quarters police training methods developed for environments where nearly every confrontation happened at conversational distance. The reasoning behind it: under real stress, fine visual focus and coordination tend to degrade, and plenty of people who've been in an actual gunfight report never consciously seeing their sights at all. The trade-off is accuracy at range. It holds up fine at contact distance but degrades quickly as the target gets farther away, which is the main criticism from schools built around precise sight alignment. None of these drills exist because someone thought they'd look good on camera. Each one was built to isolate a specific failure point: grip, transition speed, reload discipline, target discrimination, so a shooter or an instructor watching them can actually see the problem instead of guessing at it. That's really the whole appeal. They turn "am I good at this?" into something you can measure. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.